Well, welcome everybody. Ed Dale here, and I am extremely excited to bring you all into my Thursday evening, Friday morning group session. And it's an extremely special one because, as you may have seen, John Reese has just announced a new particular course that he's doing, and he's just started the launch process for that. And it's on a topic that is just such a big deal for people. It's the number one thing inside my mentoring program that I get asked about. It's a huge deal, and as I've said here, I really truly believe it's the difference between major success and just meh success online. You can do all right by yourself, but the dirty little hidden secret of internet marketing and online marketing and running an online business in general is that the people who are doing the really big money, it's a team sport in 2010, which I pinched that quote from the person who is about to join us. And I hope you all give us a big welcome with John Ace Reese. John, welcome to this webinar, and it's fantastic for you to join me.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ed. I appreciate being on here. We haven't done one of these in a long time.
It has been a while, and I'm very excited about the topic. And in fact, I want to introduce this topic by way of story. You might see on screen here some shots of a trip that Frank Kern, John, and I took to Japan, which was fantastic. But there's one little anecdote out of this trip that I want to just draw your attention to. We were... Frank and I obviously were pioneering the underachiever method, and we used to joke that, in fact, would have John come to our seminars as the overachiever. I should introduce, just assuming familiarity, of course, for everybody with John Reese. Let me just give you a couple of bumper stickers of what John has achieved in this industry. For a start, I think the thing that he'll always have is that he is effectively the Roger Bannister of internet marketing. He is the man who broke the equivalent of the 4-minute mile. He was the first person online to have $1 million day and really reset people's mindsets about what was possible and what could be done, and was done in a hurricane. And that's a wonderful story in and of itself, and he's consistently released brilliant products and always been, as a speaker and as a person who's not afraid to share his mind and get quite intense about it, has been somebody who really has been at the vanguard of this industry and has always been at the next level before anybody else knew what the next level was. And some of the stuff that John's working on now, I know, is about taking where people are going to be in the next few years, and it really is. He's a very impressive individual, but by way of anecdote, I think stories are a much better way to analyse these things. We were in Melbourne just after a seminar, and we were sitting there and we were just checking our stats as we do. There was Frank, myself, and John, and I think Frank had done about $400 or something in sales that day, and he was really excited about that. It was fantastic, and I looked at mine, and I think I'd done about $350 in stats, and you could just see John smirking over his laptop, and he's saying, "Well, and he's going, "Oh, I can't believe it." And I was like, "What? What? Oh, I can't believe the day I've had online." And I was going, "What? What did you have?" And he goes, "Oh, $17,400. And that was just and I think it was selling eBay stuff at the time. So, he has this ability to come over the top. And I suppose the big point, and something that I suspect not a lot of people know about John, is that always, like, as long as I've known him, he's always had a team of people. He's bought, as he said very famously at Stomperdeck Keynote, that this is a team sport. This is not an individual sport, it's a team sport. And he's been doing it for way before outsourcing got trendy, way before the 4-hour work week. All of these sort of very trendy and very important topics, John's been doing as long as I've known him. So I'm very, very excited to have him here and to answer your questions. And I've asked my mentoring group to submit a whole bunch of questions, and we're mate, is there anything you wanted to say by way of kickoff before we get into the questions part of this whole process?
That's another horrible picture. I was going to just say that I don't officially or unofficially in any way endorse that jacket that Frank was wearing in the previous slide. If you can go back.
Yes, there we are.
I mean, what is that? What is he wearing there? I mean, what is that all about? I think.
Well, if you recall,
that was the Puma episode, hitting the Puma outlet and buying the shoes that we all had. But he took it a step further and bought like the Michael Jackson-esque breakdancing jacket, trying to one-up us. So,
yeah, exactly. Well, I was trying my best.
I don't fully endorse that jacket.
Yeah,
in that picture.
It is a worry, and we had out. But the jackets and the shoes were very effective in Japan. I could have shot a lot of pictures. You were very popular, you lads, in getting for photos. If you remember when we went to Kyoto,
it was kids and stuff.
Yeah, it was extraordinary. It's a great
country. I've been there 5 times in the last 6 years, and really love it. Anyways, thanks for the really nice intro. I really appreciate that.
That's all right. I didn't talk about the other things like the fact that you have the biggest hands in internet marketing. I mean, I think they're growing. I mean, look at that photo there. That was taken about 4 years ago. And then I encourage people.
They look normal in that photo. What are you talking about?
They look large. They're definitely, because a Tim Tam is quite a large biscuit.
You have this warped obsession with deformity for chances. But anyways,
elephantitis is not something to be ashamed of. Everybody has conditions, and you just have that one with your hands. Fine. But anyway,
and those are the Australian Tim Tams that I'm displaying in there. That I'm a big fan. I do fully endorse those. I'm a big fan of those. But anyways, you mentioned outsourcing. I've been doing it a long time. I've been teaching it for 8 years or so. Which is about the length of time I guess I've actually been teaching marketing stuff. Before that, I was just using marketing stuff myself, and still do. But in my original workshop, which of course became the Traffic Secrets course, which 3-4 months later became that famous launch day, the $1 Million Day thing. In that course and in that workshop, both of them, obviously one was recording the other. There was a section on outsourcing. I called it Outsource Secrets, and it was just, the basics of it was basically when it deals with anything on the computer, if you're doing anything for your business, if you can record it once, you can never have to do it again. If you can record it once, you can never have to do it again, because you can give the recording of you going through some process and just give it to someone else and just say, watch the video until you get it down, or watch the video every time you need to repeat the task. But here's the video of me doing it, on-screen action on the computer. And so, of course, some people really took to that and really went from there. Other people kind of didn't realize the impact that outsourcing can really have. I mean, when it comes to making a lot of money, or even just making a little bit of money, and having a peace of mind and not want to, blow your head off when you're stressed out from all the work, you can't do it by yourself. You just can't. I mean, I can't. I know how, but it's just too much stuff. It's just way too much stuff. It's just so. The great thing about leverage, which is the key to all success, and the big thing about outsourcing is simply the fact that, as I said in the video that was released today, the key is writing small checks and then getting back larger checks from the returns on the money that you invest in the business, in which case hiring someone at low cost to be able to do work for you just to save your time.
Yep. And I think that there's a lot of processes today in bringing a business online. I like to call them, from the gaming term, it's like grinding. It's grinding out levels, like when you're in World of Warcraft or you're playing Farmville, and to get up to the next level, you just have to plant those crops, you have to kill those orcs, whatever it happens to be, you have to grind out. And anytime you find yourself doing a seriously repetitive task, that is a time to ask yourself, is this a time for outsourcing? Which brings me to my first question, John.
Well, I was going to say, making a point off of that analogy, a lot of people know what Farmville is, probably if they're on Facebook. It's like played by 80 million people a month. The company Zynga, which developed that game, they're estimated to make something like $400 or $500 million a year this year for this year in revenue, and that whole business makes money because of what you just said. People that are planting the crops and grinding out to get all the levels, they can do that for free, or they can take the option and buy, virtual seeds and virtually up in levels faster to save themselves time by just paying for it. And that's exactly the entire business model of virtual goods behind that huge game company. And
Correct.
so it's a great analogy that you made related to outsourcing in an internet business, because it's the same way. You can grind it out and plant the seeds, wait 3 days, wait for it to grow, pick up the crops, and then sell them for a little bit of money that buys you more seeds. You plant, you can grow more crops, and then you can do it again.
You have to go back. You have to go.
Or you can just say, hey, here's a check. Let me start tomorrow, where I have an acre full of stuff already grown.
Exactly, and a whole bunch of gold in the account.
Yeah.
And
so time is money.
It.
It's an old analogy, but it's so true. Time is
very
money.
Good. So how, John? First and most obvious question has to be, when's the right time to start outsourcing? What's your best advice in terms of what's the right time to start outsourcing?
Well, I think initially, if someone starts a new business, wants to start a new online business venture and they're getting into it, I do think they need to take a little bit of time to educate themselves and, learn about the process, kind of just learn some of the basics. But, give that a few weeks or a month. Beyond that, when they're ready to start implementing things, there are just certain things in the internet business that just aren't worth doing yourself. Now a lot of people have self-taught themselves HTML and even some JavaScript stuff and how to make the graphics and headers and things in Photoshop and all these other things that make up some of the building blocks of internet sites and internet business. But what they have to understand, it doesn't even matter if they're good at it. As a business owner, what anyone listening to this has to understand is that's not worth your time. That stuff isn't going to get you the highest return you can possibly get for your time. So in my strong opinion, if you're doing any of that, you're making a major mistake. You're just simply not going to make as much money as you possibly can, or at least have the lifestyle that you want to have more time, free time, if you're doing things that can easily be done by other people for not a lot of money. It's one thing if all that stuff costs $10,000 and you don't have the budget for it, but a few $100s is what gets that stuff done. And if you took the time that it would take you to learn it and then do it on your own, everything else, you divide that into the return you get for you're paying yourself $1 an hour, $2 an hour. It's just not worth it. And so I think the biggest thing is that people get stuck and they don't progress to where they're actually making much money because they get overwhelmed. They look at all this. I was the same way at one point. They look at all this stuff and they know that the only way to go from here to there with their making some money, they got to set up a landing page of some sort, drive some traffic, to have some kind of offer or good content to give that traffic to then, whether it's selling affiliate products or selling their own stuff, and then they have to go and start, setting up campaigns and testing the traffic and doing keyword research. All that stuff, all the stuff that, you teach with 30-Day Challenge, all that stuff has to happen.
Yep.
And so either it's inevitable. Either you're going to do it or someone else is going to do it, but it's got to get done or nothing changes for you. You don't get any money coming in. You don't make an income from this stuff. And so that's the big thing. It's realizing that it's easy to have other people do that stuff so you can focus your time on growing in a different direction faster or doing the things that are worth your time, like coming up with the ideas or coming up with strategy ideas to make things grow. And ironically, that stuff that pretty much you only need to be thinking about as kind of the captain of the ship, so to speak, of giving other people direction, that's the fun stuff anyways.
Exactly.
That's what we all enjoy as entrepreneurs is seeing that idea or that opportunity online and then setting up a site to try to take advantage of it. The idea is the fun thing that we feel so passionate about and that keeps us up at night and gets us jumping out of bed, writing those ideas down on a notepad, but it's the actual elements of work of setting up the HTML to build the landing page and uploading it to a server and installing WordPress and doing all these other things. There's nothing fun about that. That's like taking your medicine, in order to, it's just there's nothing fun about that.
There seems to be two issues, though, with outsourcing that I hear again and again. And the first one, actually, let's take the first one in isolation because it's such a big issue, and I've got lots of questions around this, is the quality control aspect. A lot of people, like, if you look at the most common, I think, in our industry, some of the most common outsourcing tasks where people get people to write articles, or for backlinking purposes and content purposes for blogs, they get the content back and the quality of it, and I'm being hugely stereotypical here, but this is the fear out there, is it's just not up to par, it's just not up to scratch. How do you ensure that the quality of the work that you're receiving is up to snuff? How do you sort that?
Okay, well, backing up a second here. The biggest thing I believe in, which solves this issue and gets us past this, I'm a firm believer when it comes to outsourcing. Hiring, not doing project tasks, bringing someone on to help you in your business full-time, or at least part-time, but a given number of hours.
Now, let me just explain that very specifically. So you're saying rather than having somebody on literally a task basis, you are hiring a team.
Exactly. So rather than going to, and a team doesn't have to be 100 people. You can have just one person.
Yes.
And you could have them for about $300, $300 a month. So you could, so rather than going, let's say, to Elant and saying, hey, I need an ebook written on this topic, or I need 20 keyword-filled articles written on gardening, whatever it is. So let's think about what you're dealing with when you post a job or a project to a freelancer, to an outsourcer. You're dealing with somebody that's doing a bunch of jobs for a bunch of different people, so they've got to manage their time doing that. They're selling hours for dollars. They're selling their time for a certain dollar amount because they pretty much get paid by the hour when it all comes down to it. And so because of that alone, the more production they can do, the more money they will make, at least on how they're trying to do things with doing project work. So one, no incentive to do good work for you. There's more of an incentive just to get it done fast. So that hurts the quality. The other thing is there's no fear of job security when you're one of 50 different customers, and if they burn you, they don't really care. They're like, oh, I'm sorry you weren't happy. Maybe you should use someone else next time. They've already got your money. They've already got a flood of other people coming from Elance or wherever else that they post jobs to, or that they probably they have work coming from other places, or they're having other people hire them. So that's a big issue. So what I really teach people how to do, and what I'm really encouraging people to do, is you want to find an individual that you can hire for a decent salary, a decent amount for them. And again, this could be $300 a month. Some of these people would be thrilled. And the reason why that is, on the flip side of what I just explained, the life of a freelancer, I'm going to go over this more in the second video that I'm releasing in a few more days, but the life of a freelancer sucks. I mean, it's hard to budget their income because the money comes and goes. They don't know when they're going to get a lot of jobs, or they may not get jobs they may not win a job on Elance or one of these other sites like Rent-A-Code or whatever that they're bidding on. They may not get awarded a job for 2 months. They have no cash flow coming in. People like stability. They like consistency. So you can actually hire some people full-time for less than what they may make in some months because it's consistent money for them. And they just get to deal with you. They learn how to communicate with you if you do the right things to communicate with them and how they're managed. And they just feel better about it. They just say, my rent's taken care of every month. All I have to do is please this one person that I work for. So that's part of it. When that's the case, they're going to do better work because they're just pleasing you. The other thing is fear of being fired. I mean, I hate to say it. And
carrot and stick.
And you go back to the movie Office Space, where the guy's sitting there with the 2 bobs. He's being evaluated, and he says, he said, a person's only willing to work just enough up to the point of not getting fired. So that's not always the case. If anyone's seen that movie, that's just one of my favorite movies. It's so funny. But yes, that's the case. There's no fear of loss of lifestyle or anything else if they don't do great work for you. If you're just one of many clients. Now, granted, most people take the opposite approach. They want to always put out good quality so they can get more clients. But a lot of these outsourcers that live in foreign countries that we could talk about, it doesn't take much money at all for them to live like kings. You know, $400-500 a month, they're living like a king in the Philippines or in Eastern Europe or in India. They're living huge. So, you know, that's why they can do crappy jobs for $100-200 and burn people and not worry if they ever come back. But anyway, so when you hire someone full time, you build a relationship with them. And by the way, they're not all great people, and we can talk about that. There's a way you can ferret out like the good people. But for not, I don't mean good people as in ethics. I mean just, you know, good people as in good work.
From a work perspective,
Yeah, and so that's one of the keys is hiring them full time so they only work for you.
That is a huge indicator. And I was just doing some sums on the iPhone while you were talking there, and you know, even if you said let's forget 300 and say $500 a month. You know, I was just calculating how much traffic. That's about, you know, you would pay Google, you know, if you were getting 20 cents a click, that's, you know, that's you basically paying Google for about, you know, 2,000 uniques a month or less. You know, so it really is like when you break it down that way, or if you want to look at it another way, it's what's it, about $15 a day. I mean, it's like 3 grande lattes at Starbucks.
Right.
You know, to have somebody that's on your team. And I think it's such a key distinction, having a person like that's part of your team that's building a team. And I think
absolutely.
that is a big secret. And talk about the quality. Talk about how do you find, as you say, good workers, good people. You were going to talk about that, so maybe let's discuss that a little.
Sure. So there's a few ways basically that you can filter out people. Obviously, it's I like to use the analogy of doing a human split test. You know, you can give 2 people a small task and wait and see how the results come back, and then you can decide which one does better work. But the other thing that you'll find is there's just a few basic human, you know, basic psychological traits that certain people have that other people don't have. The thing that you really want is you want someone that's proactive. You want a go-getter. For example, I hired a guy last year that was in the Philippines for, I don't know, several $100s a month. He was more of a technical guy. So he, you know, the technical people, a lot of the admin people, content people, that kind of stuff, you can get it for anywhere from $250 to $400 or $500. Technical people run from $400 up to even $800, $900 a month. But even that is just pennies when they're working full time, 8 hours a day to make you more money. It doesn't take much for that to way more than pay for itself. But anyway, so I hired this guy, and I was kind of trying him out. He's kind of on a probationary basis before I basically said, okay, I'll hire you full time. And by the way, when I hire someone full time, they're still independent contractors. If I have to let them go, I don't, you know, I'm not paying Social Security and FICA tax and all that stuff that you pay in the U.S. if you employ somebody. Probably some of that's the same in Australia as well. But
yes,
you know, I'm not
exactly.
paying health insurance and all that stuff. And you know, when you hire as an independent contractor, even though on a full-time basis, if you have to, you know, if you don't have work for them or something happens, it's no hard feelings. You know, I don't have any more work for you. But anyway, so I hired this guy, gave him some tasks to do, and we were moving our servers at the time, and I think we were thinking about using Rackspace hosted virtual servers or something. They have that new cloud thing, and I wanted to check that out. And we didn't end up using them, or at least not yet. So I said, hey, do some research on this and see what you think and tell me what your opinion is. So this guy went, of course, to the site, did a great job. He analyzed it all. He wrote up all these reasons why, what they offered and what he thought about a suggestion for me to use it or not. But what he did was he went a step further. He opened a chat session with one of the support or salespeople on the Rackspace site, and he grilled them with all these questions. And at the end of the question, he said, can you please email me a copy of this transcript so I can give it to my boss? But he's very, that's what you want. You want someone that's proactive. You want people to, and by the way, this is another secret to retaining people. It's not enough just to find a good person. There's a whole other art form in retaining them so they'll want to keep working for you and keep making you a lot of money every month. And one of the things is, a lot of this is just common sense stuff, but one of the things is really letting them contribute. listen to their ideas. Don't just treat them like a slave or a robot.
Involvement breeds commitment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, always be open to their feedback. And you know what? Even if you think you're always right, eventually, every now and then you got to throw them a bone, as I say, and use one of their suggestions instead of what you were thinking. And they feel really good about it, you know, even though they're not benefiting from the net profit that comes from the business, at least as a business owner. Of course, they benefit from because they're getting paid and they have a salary, but even though they don't own the business, they kind of feel like they do because they can see on the website, on the landing page, on anything they did,
Yep.
hey, there's the thing that I came up with. And so that's very, very critical.
Yeah.
But to find good people, you basically give them a task and don't be afraid to get on them. Ask them questions, you know, ask them how things are going, and see how they react with communication. If they're not really responsive and they're not, a team player, then that's a warning sign. You know,
let me ask you about that specifically, because that brings up two key, and I got dozens along these two themes, and we'll tackle them one at a time. The first one is the tool. What sort of tools do you use in terms of managing the outsourcing and keeping track of tasks and so on? And the second one, which you may want to take first, is my impression when I discuss with a lot of people from outsourcing, I classically hear this. I don't know if you get this, John, but it's like, oh yeah, no, I gave this task or thing to an outsourcer or a project person, and they said they'd have it for me, last week, and that was 4 weeks ago. And I'm thinking, well, what's been the communication process there? Can you talk to that? Are people being too nice to in terms of outsourcing, or are they not? What are the communication rules and maybe tools even that you use to make sure that there is constant communication?
Sure, the communication is key. I use one key tool that just runs all of it, and even runs, I should talk about that too, also it runs my own life, and that's Basecamp. I'm a huge fan of Basecamp. You can get an account for $24 a month. You can put all your team, you could have 50 different outsourced people in all different countries, whether they're in the same city, same country, or different countries, and you set up tasks, and when you assign a task, you click off the names of who's responsible for it's basically a do it machine. You know, you add entries into it, and then you click on the people's names that are going to do it and make it happen. And
it's 37 Signals. I know you're a massive. Yeah, I know you're a massive. You and I both are big fans of 37 Signals as business people and business philosophy.
Yeah, the company that
people
makes that product.
Rework as a book is just unreal. But
so what's great about
just put it up on the
Basecamp
screen
is that, and then what they've hit on the head, and why 2 million plus people or whatever their numbers are use this thing, like from wedding planners to software developers to architects. So many different types of businesses use this software. It's clean, it's simple, it's easy to use. Does it have all the bells and whistles and things that maybe some other project management software has? Nope. But you know what? It's like the 99-1 rule.
It's better for it.
It is, and they even say that. They ignore feature suggestions from customers 90% of the time because they don't want to bloat the thing. But it's enough. I'm using it now to make millions of dollars in my own business, and it's good enough. I think it's fantastic. And there are huge companies that use it. Fortune 500. I mean, look at those logos right there.
Some of those here. Yeah.
Kellogg's and USA Today and Fox Sports. Yeah. So it's great project. So you load up all your people in there. You know, if you have just one outsourcer, then you have an account and they're part of your account. You know, and they can upload their photo and stuff. So as you have interactions there, but you handle everything through Basecamp and not just through email. Email is a horrible way to communicate.
Oh, you can't. It's
it's a horrible way to get stuff done. The great thing about Basecamp is when you start on a project. And you're working on something, it keeps a record of the evolution of the project. You know, when you go back and say, oh, I want the website design to look a little bit different, and they change it, then the new version's updated. You can go and see all the changes in the exact order, and like keeping a diary, a log of the progression. but it is I love it. I mean, I love it. I love it. I love it. It is amazing. I wish they had an affiliate program. I'd be rich because I recommend to everybody. They give you, I think they give you some free credit or something if you refer people. You know, if they paid 50%, I'd be the richest man in the world. No, but it's a great product. I believe in it. I wholeheartedly recommend it to every internet marketer. It's for their lowest thing. You start with to manage like 15 projects, which is a ton. It's like $24 a month. It's such a deal. So, but here's how else I use Basecamp. Just a little side note. I use it to basically to run my own personal life outside of business. So I don't mean like dating a bunch of women. I mean, well, I could, but I mean, so I'm just joking. So you know, in there, what's great about Basecamp is that you can set up to-do lists, and you can of course delegate any to-do item to someone else on your little team that's set up in this software. So you just click their name, and when you make a to-do entry, so if you just say like need a rough draft of the site design, and then you make that as a to-do list, then you can assign it to someone. And they'll get an email and says, hey, you've got a new entry in Basecamp. They can click the URL and they go right to it and they see what they need to do. But what I use it for personally also is just the to-dos. I just do, you know, all kinds of to-do lists. Like, you know, if I'm thinking I got to call my car insurance company back and see about, you know, adding the new insurance policy for, you know, if I got another car or sold a car and need to take it off. You know, I need to call the dentist back and rechange my appointment. Just any of the normal to-do stuff. And you know, and I have assistants that do stuff for me and stuff, and that's the way I can communicate with them as well. But even for my own self, where I'm like, hey, I got to call such and such friend back, or you know, I need to go over to such, call someone about.
Do you use an iPhone slash?
What's that?
Do you use an iPhone? Do you use an iPhone slash iPad app in conjunction with this to be able to add to it on them?
I don't yet. I had an app that I downloaded for the iPhone, and I could never get it to work. They don't have an official Basecamp iPhone app. I don't think it's other people that made them. And whatever the one was that I got, it didn't work. So maybe I just picked the wrong one and had bad luck. But there's got to be one that runs it. And I imagine it's got to be beautiful on the iPad if someone has an iPad Basecamp app.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Go down to this dashboard, for example.
Yep.
The blue. Get that more on the screen.
Okay.
Are you there? Oh, it's. I guess it's lagged.
It'll just load up. Yeah.
But you can just see. Look how simple that is. It's like milestone review proposal. It's due on. So you put what dates certain things are due as well. But that answers your question about like, oh well, 4 weeks went by and they should have it that week. Well, you put milestones in, and so they're getting pounded with emails every day that says you're past your milestone date. You're past your milestone date. But it's beautiful. It's clean. It's simple. You can put your little logo in the upper right-hand corner. You have all your projects down the right-hand side. It's a fun, exciting way, too, to manage business ideas. You know, like I'll come up with all these like business ideas and projects and stuff, and I'll create the little side project for them. Like I have, because I know I get so much value out of this service, I have their top-tier account. I think it's like $99 a month, which for me is just a bargain. And that gives you, whatever their top tier is, gives you unlimited projects. So in the lower end, you can have only 15, but in the other one, you have unlimited. So I just plaster down the right-hand side. I actually have multiple companies, and I have multiple Basecamp accounts. But kind of my main one, I keep all my main ideas in there, even if I'm not going to get to them yet. And you can change the order of the projects, you know, based on priority and stuff. But it's a fun way to make money. You know, it's a fun way to think of ideas and then take the idea and go from idea to fruition. You know. Get it, break it down into parts, then get it delegated to people doing the work, and then they're, you know, uploading the new designs here, or uploading the content they wrote for it, or uploading the keyword research they did for it, or uploading the product they had created, all that stuff, and then you can manage your money, your personal money-making machine. I can't recommend this software high enough.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. That is an awesome recommendation. Let me ask you something else. Software development, in particular, is becoming more and more important. We're becoming an app-based society. Over 100 million people have mobile devices which are capable of running applications. People are designing applications, and you mentioned I know when you and if people aren't looking at what's your blog, John? What's it's
down right now because we're moving the server.
Okay, that's fine. But there was an article that you posted on that about hiring a software development firm as opposed to having your own individual developers.
Yes.
How can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Yeah, I
Um,
lost my proverbial butt. By that was a hard lesson to learn. And what's funny is I've been burned twice that way, and it's like fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me, or
yeah,
however that whole thing goes. Well, I got shamed
yeah,
twice, and I learned a valuable lesson that cost me probably $150,000. But basically, here's the deal. So obviously, by now you get people get the big picture. They need to be outsourcing, no question
yeah,
about it. They want to make money in this
hmm
business. They want to have sanity. They want to have the 4-hour work week lifestyle or any lifestyle, regardless
yeah,
of how many hours they want to work. They need to outsource. The thing about outsourcing is you're basically looking at 3 levels. The first one is posting a project on Elance type site. You don't know who's on the other end of that. That's supposed to be getting the work done. It could be re-outsourced to other outsourcers 10 times over
yeah,
before your work gets done, and people making a cut along the way. But it's either an individual doing the work or it's a firm. So here's what's going on in a lot of these countries like India, Philippines, Eastern Europe, where with the global economy, the dollar makes a difference,
mm,
where obviously you can leverage labor, which is this whole global outsourcing thing we're talking about. There have been companies that have sprung up, and they're smart. And so, a guy in Russia, let's say, will start a company, and he'll go and he'll hire a bunch of local programmers and graphics people or whatever the skill is, and then they go and that company that he owns will bid on jobs in Elance or these other sites where people are posting jobs to be done, or they'll just advertise and people will hire them. So what happens is people hire this firm to do like software development for them. And so it
yes,
all sounds great on the exterior when someone's like, hey, hire our firm of 30 guys that I already
yep,
manage, and we'll get your stuff done real fast. And you don't have to manage people, deal with anything. You just deal with me. I get all the stuff done. Well, that's well and great, but here's the only problem with that. So it goes back to what I said in the beginning when I said when it comes to people that don't work for you full time, there's no fear of losing their job, so the quality suffers. And
yep,
especially when you deal with a firm, a team of people that are part of a business, those people technically, and this is the key, they don't work for you. They work for the guy that manages them, that owns the business. So
yes,
that's a big kind of what's the point? Your conflict of interest. So
yeah,
more or less. But so that's the problem. So you deal with these firms. They're all about just cranking out. They're all about marking up hours, right? They're paying these programmers $3 an hour. They're going to charge you $5 an hour. The guy who owns the business keeps the difference. So
yeah,
one, they have incentive to work a lot of hours and delay projects and put more time in it because they make more money.
yeah,
Two, though, the quality suffers because they're just most of them, not all, but most of them are just cranking out work for tons of people. It's like the analogy of the single guy that's doing a lot of different projects aside from your own. These firms are
yep,
doing tons of projects beside just yours.
yep.
So if they do a bad job, they're like, okay, sorry, you don't want to use this again. We're going to go back to our other 50 clients that we're running all these pay-per-click ads and getting.
Yeah, and I think one of the great travesties that I'm seeing with a lot of particularly traditional businesses who would bring their business online is they are getting reamed by these companies. I mean, absolutely reamed. Like, they ask, and I've seen a dozen examples of this in the last month. They say to the firm, they say to this group, oh, are you doing SEO optimization on the site as you're building it? And they go, oh yes, of course, of course. And for most businesses that they deal with, that would be it, because you don't know. It's like when I got somebody to renovate this house, I wouldn't have a clue what they were doing, no idea. And particularly when you're dealing with a company, unless you actually knew what you were going on about, and you realise that they're just snowing you and they have no intention of doing correct SEO, wouldn't have a clue about it. Which brings me to another point. We're getting a lot of questions about people worrying about outsourcers stealing your ideas.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What? Yeah, what's your view on that?
So there's a couple way to approach it strategically. Um, the first golden rule of source is never give one person access to everything.
Hmm.
So basically, you take your business or what you're developing and you break it down into parts. And you don't have one person necessarily do all the parts.
And this addresses another big question,
Or
which
even if
people are
they
saying.
are doing all the parts, You
Yeah.
don't give them access to the results accounts. What I mean by that is if you're promoting ClickBank products, you don't give them access to the ClickBank account so they can see how much money's being. They have no idea. They have no idea if you're succeeding or failing. They don't see the
Yes.
bank statements. They shouldn't see, unless it's someone you really trust and have learned to build trust with. They don't see the PayPal accounts. They don't see any of that. All they're doing is just building building certain pieces or all the pieces, but they don't know what the results are. So you don't give people access to results. You don't give people access to your accounting and to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there are plenty of incredibly honest, hardworking, trustworthy people out there. I
Mm.
have quite a few of them that work for me. I would give them access to all my bank accounts. That's how much I trust them. I mean, I don't, but if I needed to, I know they
Yep.
wouldn't do a thing. And you learn that. You learn after working with people for a little while. And as the one thing about outsourcing to a lot of these inexpensive workers is they're literally almost in third world countries or third world economies at least, where the money they get from you it's the difference in survival pretty much for them and their families. It's not about they can take that money and go buy an extra laptop this month or make a car payment on a better car. It's survival, it's food, it's shelter. So it's most of them when you start working, they really appreciate the opportunity. And so they want to really please you and so they can keep the job. But typically most of the people I've dealt with are just very, very honest. I mean, you've all heard horror stories. Our buddy Frank, when he was doing
Yep.
the dog training stuff,
Yes.
had some guy in the Middle East or somewhere that
Yeah, Egypt, I
basically
think it was. Yeah.
cloned his whole business and took all his stuff and went and competed with him and had to threaten to sue him and stuff. But I think those things are really fewer and far between. I think um,
Yeah.
it,
There's always a tiny percentage of people who are scum and will rip you off. But if you
you
need to
can't use
practice
the scarcity
business with
mindset. You can't.
exactly you.
It's about abundance. So if you
Yep.
just assume that all people are good, all people are honest, they're not going to rip off my ideas, and you just push forward and proceed in that manner, and let's say 10% of people are bad, are completely going to rip you off, and may put a minor dent in something that you do, that's still 9 out of 10 of your projects that are going to do a lot better because you're trusting people and you're outsourcing and you're getting other people to do the work that you couldn't do anyways. So you've already got 9 more things making you a lot of money besides the other one that someone may have messed with that you never would have had in the first place if you would have done them all yourself. And that's the difference in an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's such a it frustrates me because there's so many. It's like questions where it's sort of like, oh, what happens? How do I, what tax do I have to pay? What if I have a really big tax bill and all of the it's in that level of questions. And what happens if somebody takes my idea? The idea is not you, and you've got to be confident in your own abilities to move forward with your own projects. It's just absolutely vital. Now, John, where do we find people? What's the deal?
So,
I know,
so
and go on.
I was going to say, so there are a few places in regards to geographic location. The Philippines is my absolute favorite. So I suggest starting there. However, just to make a footnote on this conversation, I have workers in the United States, in Canada, in different parts of Europe, different parts of some of the older Russian territories like Moldova, Romania, or not, I guess Romania wasn't a Russian territory, but Moldova, Ukraine, that area. Um, and so I don't only use people from one place because you can find certain skilled people that have certain specialties in certain areas, and depending on the price, it doesn't matter where they live. But at its core, people should start with the Philippines because they're English speaking, at least their whole
Mhm.
education system is in English, even though it's not their first language.
Yes.
And some of them are very, very good English writers, so they can create really good content. They're a wonderful culture of people. They're kind of not entrepreneurial. That's not the entrepreneurs is not really being an entrepreneur is not really a big part of their culture. So they are hard workers and they'll work hard for someone that gives them a job. Um, but that's a really good place to start. And of course their currency is very, very low. And that if you want to hire someone for $300 a month, it's
Yeah.
that's a good place to find somebody.
Am I right in saying, John, that you probably pay a little bit over the odds when you find somebody who's good? Is that something that you do, or do you really try to keep it tight?
That's 100%. It's and I said that at that Stompernet keynote, if you remember not, because that Reese rule number 1 in that presentation that I used was what my father taught me at an early age: always do more than is expected of you.
Yeah.
So if you hire somebody for $300 a month and they start totally kicking butt for you, working their asses off, getting a lot done, making a lot of articles each week, or whatever it is that you're having them do, and they're just putting out great work, and of course, especially when you start to see a return on the investment in that person, where your business is growing, you're getting more traffic, you're making more sales, you're making more money. By all means, start paying them more money, reward them. Think about it. If you had someone working full time for $300 a month, and you went from making yourself $500, $600, $700 a month to making to making $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month because of their efforts. You don't just be cheap and say, hey, now I need to take some of this new money and just hire a bunch of other people for $300. Look and see what you have and recognize it and appreciate they're another human being just like you are, and give them a raise. Say, hey, you're doing so well, I'm going to bump you up to $400 a month or even $500 a month. That's nothing compared to what their output can produce. So, for, like, a great example of and they will be so talk about loyalty, because you know why? It's just like, my father says, always do more than is expected of you. It's because everyone naturally just wants to do the bare minimum, right up to that line. It's like the Office Space analogy in that movie.
Yes.
You want to do right up to that point of it being just enough to get away with it. And so the deal is, most people aren't going to overpay people and start giving them a raise. They're like, $300 is $300. If they have the scarcity-minded outlook, right? They're like, well, if they don't want to work for $300, just go hire someone else. There's plenty of other people. When they don't realize the time it takes to train someone, build a friendship with someone, get on the same communications wavelength with somebody, get comfortable working with someone so they get more and more work done and you accelerate your progress more and more at a faster pace. So, yeah, that's a big key. Pay them more, or buy them a gift, do something nice for them. I have an office now in the Philippines, and people don't need an office to hire people.
I was going to say, do they have to travel over to the Philippines to do all of this? Do they have to,
They don't. There are pros and cons for doing it. If you're going to have a lot of people working for you, it makes good sense, if you can do it, to have an office over there. And if you have like an office manager, a team leader, someone that can manage your team, and you can have that even if you're virtual. But by having, it depends what kind of business it is. Without saying the name of it, I set up the office because I'm chasing one of my lifelong dreams, and I'm building a video game company. And so in order to successfully do that, I need to have the game studio where all the the designers and the programmers and the 3D people, all that stuff, are in the same building together, collaborating and building the projects together. So they needed to be in the same area. But others, for other internet marketing business models and all kinds of stuff, have set up offices too. But you don't have to set up an office. I mean, gosh, if people that are listening to this, if they've never really done much outsourcing before, if you would just hire one person full time, that's it, your life would change.
Yeah.
And just do it virtually and remotely through the internet.
Yes. Yeah. And when you look at
what I was going to say is, so four of my key guys, engineering guys, that were doing programming and other stuff for me, they're making less than $1,000 a month each, and they're high-level engineering graduates, and they start doing really good work right away, and they were just super nice people, and I just wanted to reward them. So I bought all four of them MacBooks, because we were doing some iPhone development anyway, so they needed to be developing on Macs, and these guys just had PCs. So I bought them MacBooks, and they had even mentioned they wanted to see if the company would buy them, and they could have their pay each month deducted for a year or something until it was paid for. So instead, I bought them. I said, you know what? You don't owe me anything. This is my gift to you. I appreciate your hard work and you working to be a part of the company. This is your company too, and I want to reward you with that. And do you think that bought me any loyalty with them?
Huge.
I mean, so little things go a long way. You don't have to buy computers for people, by the way. That's not my point. But
and this is the thing. If I can throw in something here in my experience as well, is that it's one thing to give people pay rises, but when it's money, money is it's just the new expected base level.
Right.
Paying for experiences and stuff like a MacBook or a trip or something that they've always wanted to do.
I'll tell you something else that works well. Every now and then, I give my team leader guy, when I PayPal them payments and stuff, when I PayPal the team leader guy because he takes care of office expenses and things, I'll give him like an extra $50, which goes a long way there. I'll give him an extra $50 and tell him to throw a party for everybody.
Yeah.
So like on Friday afternoon, they'll have some food brought in and stuff for the team there, and they'll have like a little party that I paid for that they don't have to pay for. They get some nice food. They bring in like a barbecue caterer or something like that, and it's like you said, experiences, stuff like that. I mean, who does that for people? There's these people outsource those people that have them on payroll and they're just having to grind out and do jobs for them. They're not buying them food and doing nice things for them because they're doing the bare minimum.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's just such a thing. And it's funny, I packed up our whole office and we went on a road trip in the US. And I remember at the time it cost me about $20,000, which was a lot of money at the time. And to this day, every single person who and this is over 12 years ago now, I can pick up the phone, and most of those people have gone on to become, in charge of companies or in charge of big IT engineering teams. I can pick up the phone and ask a favor of any one of those people, and they would drop everything they're doing and do it, because of that one trip that I took them on 12 years ago. It's such a great strategy and technique, and just a very, very good way to go. Look, I know that you are on a real schedule today with everything that's going on here. I think you've really hit the nail on the head. What do you do? Let me ask you one little tactical thing, and then we'll wrap up. Just into people
we're
are saying.
We're good if you want to go a few more minutes, Ed.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, fantastic.
I didn't know if you have more questions. We can keep going through them.
Great. If the chat, like a couple of people
I always do more than is expected of you.
There you go.
Expected an hour, they're getting more than an hour.
Very good. And given that you invented Lego, it was it's very generous of you indeed. That's
an inside joke for people.
Yeah. What handing over the keys to the FTP server, as one person put it.
Right.
Again, does that come under the category of? Is there any? Do you have strategies, techniques for that, or do you just it's at the end of the day you get a sense of who's you hire well and trust the team?
Yeah, I mean that's it. I mean it's you just kind of have to get a feel for people and you get them to do other things for you, and then once they do, you learn to trust them. One of the keys is kind of hiring like a team leader type person. When you, if you're going to have multiple people. So when you get to the point where you have hired some people to do little jobs and you find they're really proactive, real go-getters, they do really good work, they're working, you can tell, they're working hard to please you, and you give them a little bit more money, and they constantly tell you how much they appreciate it. They say things like, hey, I just want you to know, my parents both say thank you for giving me the job opportunity, really making us. You'll get a feeling for good people. You know what I mean? It's we go through relationships and friendships in life every day. You learn who the good people are. It just screams out at you. But eventually you will learn to trust people, and you can trust you trust people with the FTP stuff. But it's also, I mean, if you're that paranoid, you always build kind of a worst case scenario in your head. What's the worst possible thing that someone could do that had that access? They could get access to your e-commerce stuff. They could zap all your data if they deleted the server. Well, obviously, if you do regular backups, that's not possible. The worst they could do is tamper with your site. You bring somebody else in, you lock them out and change all the passwords and stuff, and then you restore the backup from yesterday's backup or whatever, and boom, you're back in business. Nothing is affected. The only thing is if they took some data and have some whatever. But I mean, what are they going to do with it? They're going to sell credit card numbers and end up in jail and prison. If they're that kind of person, anyways, they're not working for you. They're not taking jobs for $300 and $400 a month for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this question. This is a great question. What wouldn't you outsource?
That's a very good question. So I still have American like actual employees, just a few of them,
Hmm.
and that's to handle like I have an operations manager that handles overlooks all customer service and refunds, all that stuff. And of course, we do outsource for customer service and some of the other administrative stuff. Um, but banking, I wouldn't outsource banking.
Yep.
So I actually have a real long-time trusted employee that can do deposits and do withdrawals and transfer money and do wire transfers and that kind of stuff. So banking's a big one. Um, I don't know. I mean, there's not really much you can't outsource, when it comes. I mean, when it comes to internet business, think about it. What is it? It's web pages, content, audio, video, maybe, which is also content, ad
Yep.
campaigns, um, you know, joint
Linking strategies and
relationships with partners, which, sometimes you don't want it just to be outsourced so it's someone all by email, although that can still work.
yep.
There's not a lot that you can't outsource. If you really break down all the different components of a successful online business, there's not a lot that can't be outsourced and worked on while you're sleeping.
Yeah. To me, if I was to add something on there, it's the stuff that is fun that's not going to hold people up. Because often you can be the biggest, speaking from personal experience, often you can be the biggest bottleneck in your business when you have a
Yes.
team. And so I try to not dabble in stuff that I would like to dabble in because I find it really fun, but because I'm busy and whatever, I don't get the chance to do. But for me, that the whole concept, coming up with the ideas, coming up with the concepts, and so on, is the stuff that I really enjoy doing, and market research and so on. So I tend not to have that done with a team, because it's I suppose I'd like to think I add value somewhere in the whole joint. But if you can get to the point where you add very little value, that's probably a pretty good thing. As an ultimate thing, I think,
Yep.
which makes a big deal. Um, Tell me, in specking, in actually delegating out the work, John, I think you touched on this way at the start, but I'm getting a couple of questions about it. Sort of how, like a process, like if you were describing somebody to write articles for backlinking purposes, for example,
Right.
how would you go about briefing your team to do that?
So
That
you're
that
stealing all
task.
my thunder because all this is going to be in the second video that I'm releasing, but that's okay.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. So
it's
I'm a huge believer in the Livescribe Pen, which I think you also have, don't
oh
you?
yeah, I sure do.
Uh,
Yeah.
How did you get yours? Because I think they don't ship outside the U.S. Did you buy it when you were in the
No,
U.S.?
no, no. They are available
They're
in,
now
certainly
available.
in Australia. Or you can go into the equivalent, our equivalent of Staples, which is Officeworks,
Oh,
and
nice. Well,
you
maybe it
can buy
was
them
the
there.
new one that came out. It was only in the U.S. at first or something like that.
Yeah,
Because I remember it said someone tried to buy one on my suggestion for like their dad for Christmas this past Christmas, and it was
yeah.
a
They're
girl I
not
know that
widely distributed
yeah, it's a
outside of the
girl I know that
US,
was
that's
working
for
in
sure.
Asia, and she's like, they won't even
Yeah,
ship to Canada where my father lives. She goes, can I
yeah,
send it to you and then you ship it to Canada? And that's what we had to do.
yeah,
But anyways, the Livescribe Pen is the ultimate outsourcing device
yeah.
for managing outsourcing. It's if people don't know what it is, it's basically it's a gadget. It's a pen. It's basically a computer. It's running Java in it, um, and it uses some special technology. So you can go to record and you can write on a piece of paper, special paper that they use with the pen. And as you talk, the pen's recording your audio, and then you can load it into the computer, and it'll play back as you're drawing out whatever you drew, and as you the audio what you're saying at the point of what when each thing is being drawn.
Yes,
Um, and so you can basically say, okay, I have an idea for a design for the website. I want the header to be about this size, and you're drawing it out, and they're seeing you draw as you talk. It's like a whiteboard, basically. It's like a recorded whiteboard session, basically, and
yeah. I use it all the
it's
time.
just,
I use
I
it
mean,
in
that's
cafes
so.
when I'm having
So
meetings with people.
the big secret for outsourcing and for getting stuff done is basically the more you can clarify your idea and what you want made, the more detailed the specifications are, as we call it, the more detailed what is it you want made, the cheaper it will cost to have you made, and the faster it will get made. So hey, look at that. They have their own
Yep.
app store now in the lower right-hand corner. Everyone's got an app.
Yes.
Everyone has an app store. Surprised they're calling it the App Store though. They're probably gonna get sued by Apple. They could have called it the Scribe Store or something, but um, but anyways,
But the other thing, but people
it's
can
like
go the other way.
$100
One thing,
this device, and it's well worth
yeah,
it.
one thing though with specifications, you've got to be careful. The traditional, from my dark distant past, coming from an IT background, your traditional functional specification, which IT people talk about, is terrifying, and that's where you would write out reams of descriptive words about how something would work. To me, that is insane.
And in today's software development, they don't. It's either agile or some other method. I forget the names, but they don't really do that anymore.
Yeah.
Now they take a UI design, which is smarter. They draw the interface, which is what you would do. You take this pen, you draw the basic ideas. Like if people are watching this, I'm looking at this Livescribe site that you're showing where they have these tabs across the top, Smart Pen Store, Community, Developers, Support. Well, if you were building this exact site, you wanted this built for you, you could draw a big square of this main design. You could create those little buttons and write in the names Smart Pen, Store, Community, and you could basically, as you're describing it, you say, when someone clicks on this one, Smart Pen, here's where I want it to go. I want it to go to this other page that's just going to have one big video on the page. So it's basically creating the interface and describing what every little click and action does, and it's much easier for someone to make it, design it, and decode it if it's described just like that. The better job you do at that, the faster it gets made, the cheaper it's made. When you just say, oh, I'm thinking about making a site, and I think I'd like to have 4 or 5 navigation buttons. No, it needs to be 5 navigation points. Here's the names of them. Here's where they go when people click on them. Because otherwise, the programmer or developer or designer, they're not mind readers. They don't, and they're not. They're also not like experts where they know what should be there or what you're thinking of. So that's it. You just that's why I like the Livescribe Pen so much.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I was just trying to find you here while you were talking. It is just a sensation. It's an iPad app. Have you seen it? iMockup?
No.
It's just superb. I'm just trying to actually find the actual link for you, so you can see it, because it just has all the screen elements because using user interface and that 37 signals type design, it's just fantastic for mocking up applications, and you do it on your iPad. It's just
I think I have seen
sensation.
this where it gives sample menus and
it is just very, very cool, and you can upload it and people can have a look at
awesome.
it. Yeah.
I mean, the thing about the Livescribe Pen is if you were sitting down in a meeting with someone face to face and you were describing something to them, whether they were going to build you a house, they were going to build you a dog house, bird house, any house, or any kind of project, and you basically say, hey, give me a pad and a pen, and let me draw out for you what I want, what I'm thinking about. And that's the same thing that goes with the Livescribe Pen. You're just drawing out and talking over what you want to have made, and they can take that and turn it into the finished product. It's awesome.
Yep. No, absolutely, it does brilliantly. Is it
only thing that's not awesome is that it doesn't. I don't think the current version still doesn't auto export to like a Flash movie. So you have to do a 2-stepper where you play back the what you record on the pen on your screen, and you just capture it with like Camtasia or ScreenFlow, and then you have your video.
Yeah, that's a very cool content creation tip, which I'll actually create. Less than 30-day challenge plus members would know. I use the Livescribe Pen, and I actually literally draw out and then film that back. So on ScreenFlow, and I've got content created. I use it for that.
It's a great teaching tool.
Oh, just sensate, and just for letting other team members know when you've been at a meeting, they can just go to the particular point, and you can literally tap on the particular point, and it is just absolutely brilliant. Let me ask you this question, John. What is the single biggest thing you think people stuff up when it comes to outsourcing?
Well, I think it all starts with where they go for outsourcing. Obviously, too many people think Elance and Rent-A-Coder is actually outsourcing. I don't even consider that outsourcing. That's one thing. The other thing is that they don't communicate enough what they want to have done, which we just had that huge conversation about. and that's why they fail, because they don't give enough details about what they. I mean, when you outsource something or hire someone to do work for you, you need to be able to fully communicate exactly what it is that you want. Again, they're not mind readers. And then the other thing is just not establishing policies and procedures when they're working with the people. You need to tell people, hey, I need a report every 2 days of what was accomplished. If you're out there getting backlinks from my website to help me with search engine rankings, I need a report, every 2 days, every 3 days, whatever, detailing all the sites where you went and put up a link for us.
Yep.
So you hold them accountable. You give them milestones. You give them things they need to be reporting on, and depending on what it is, or you could say, I want daily communication of what you did today.
Yep.
Typically every few days works better. People don't want to be hassled every single day, but
Now tell me this, John. People are asking, obviously, one of the reasons I suppose that people go to Elance and these sort of sites is because they're sort of well known. Do you use a service to find these people that you hire? Do you advertise individually? How do you physically go about finding?
There's a number of different ways to find people. So one of the ones, so I'm a big believer in approach people through their resumes rather than through posting a project on a site like Elance. So if there's a certain skill you want, let's say you want some really elaborate Flash application made.
HTML5, please.
Oh, well, whatever. Well, Facebook applications only run in Flash. So let's say you wanted a Facebook application that you had an idea that was going to go viral.
Go on.
Which it's too bad you can't play Farmville on your iPad, but that's a conversation for another day. So if you wanted something done, that's specific, like Flash programming is kind of a specific skill, you want to go to websites where Flash developers put their resumes. You could probably type Flash developer resume and find some. Or another big secret is you can go to forums. Everyone that has a finely tuned skill or interest, typically, and someone that's online and has something to do with the online world, is a member of communities, right? So they take part in these online forums. So if you go to some of the top Flash development forums, that's where you find Flash experts. And of course, some of them are U.S. people, and so they're already in jobs making a lot of money or whatever else, but you'll find quite a few international people, and you can find quite a few international people that are from countries, India or parts of Europe or the Philippines and other Asian countries where the cost of living is very, very low, and you can hire them for not a lot of money. But so that's one of the things is whatever the real skill is that you want, go to where they hang out. But the other thing is resumes. John Jonas, another internet marketer, he's got a great site they started called onlinejobs.ph.
Yes.
And it's like a pay site if you want to get contact information, but you can go and look through all the resumes and see kind of how much money they're asking for. But another neat thing that he does is he has a system where they pre-screen workers. They kind of put them through the paces of kind of interviewing that kind of stuff to try to eliminate the bad workers. And I think they charge a couple $100 or whatever as a bounty if you want to hire one of their pre-screen workers, but it could save you hours and hours of your time to filter them out. And then so there they are right there, $275 a month or $350 a month. It lists how much they want to work, what their background is, what their experience is.
Just like any HR agency does pre-interviews and so on when you working with implement. Yep.
Did you say H?
H.
You Aussie and your H is you said HR.
Don't start.
Just H.
Start.
HR.
Yeah. Then don't start lecturing me on English, okay? Just don't go there. It's not worth it for you.
I mean, your country is an island of criminals. Isn't that how it was founded? They took all the criminals in Britain and sent them to Australia. Anyway.
Yes, and then you can define any difference between an Australian and the US.
But they have Tim Tams. I have to give the love to Australia. They got some pretty good junk food. And what are those other little fuzzy things you introduced me to that you put in water? The vitamin E. It's kind of like Alka-Seltzer.
Baraka.
Baraka. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyways, so onlinejobs.ph is a great site.
Yeah.
There's a great site in the Philippines called bestjobs.ph, but they block people from the U.S. You could probably access it from Australia, and they block people from the U.S. from using it, I guess, because they were abusing it. I don't know, Spanish or whatever. But That's another place just to see tons of resumes and to find people to hire. And
Yep. Is Craigslist an option?
you know what? Craigslist is an option. It's not the best option, but depending on what you're trying to do, if you go to the Manila version of Craigslist, that's one of the biggest cities in the Philippines,
Yes.
you can post jobs for virtual workers, and you can find
Yep.
people that way. But here's the other secret to like hiring people, like especially like in the Philippines, let's say, but this works anywhere. So Philippines is really good, really like hiring people from there. Cheap, they do good work, honest people, easy to communicate because they learned all their schooling in English. When you hire somebody that's good, you know, my mother always taught me this saying when I was a kid: birds of a feather flock together. I don't know if you ever heard that phrase.
Yep.
And she used to harp on that. You know, it's basically like good people surround themselves typically with other good people, like-minded people. You know, knuckleheads run with knuckleheads. And so typically, it's not always the case, but typically if you find someone that's a really good person, really hard worker, they know they are associated with other people just like them. That would be hard. So what you do is when you build a relationship with someone, this is a huge secret to outsourcing. When you find just one person that you build a relationship with, and because you have to understand, a lot of this outsourcing stuff can be done by millions of people. You're not talking about doing some rocket science here. This is just like data entry, research. Once they learn keyword research, managing ad campaigns, that's stuff anybody can do. Anyways, getting backlinks. So when you get somebody that's good, you like them, they're doing good work for you, that's a home run. Here's all you say to them: hey, do you happen to know of any friends or family that might also want a job and might want to work with us? You know, or maybe you could help manage them, or they could just, you know, also work with us. So this does a couple of things. One, ideally, they probably already know other good people. Two, their butts are on the line if they recommend a bad person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
They don't want to
great
risk
idea.
their job at stake by
Yeah.
having their best, you know, if because everyone would think, oh, they're just going to get their best friends to get hired and everything else. Well, not unless they do really good work, because they could get fired. Remember, there's the fear of being terminated because they work for you. They don't work for a firm, or they're not working for a bunch of other clients.
Yep.
So, especially family, you know,
That is so funny. You know, you've just made me think back, and I think back about my best hires that I've ever made in my entire business career. And a young lad who you know well, who created Market Samurai, Eugene Ware.
yeah,
Not so young anymore, but when I hired him out of university, came and did a summer internship a decade and a half ago. And when Eugene came to work for me, I asked him, do you have any mates at Monash who want a job? And that group of guys, they were guns. And you were absolutely right. To this day, they're all geniuses and total guns. And of course, a number of them are working at Market Samurai there and doing an incredible job. And I think back to my best hires. It's always been at the recommendation of somebody who's already worked for me. That is a brilliant, brilliant point.
and believe it or not, like that's what makes the whole recruiting world go round in corporate America as well. Is you know, people refer their friends to come in to get jobs at Google. You know, and there's the Google engineer. Sure, part of their whole HR program is referencing other people that they know, other engineers, other people that they know that could do a good job. It's because it's already kind of they're already qualified in a way, because it's coming from a proven referral that gets fed, so to speak, by the mothership that's about to hire the other person. And so the last thing they're going to do is put their neck on the line and put their livelihood at stake by saying, oh yeah, you definitely should hire this person, knowing that person is going to flake out and doesn't do good work.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
and so the other thing is, like, you know, you hire people like in the Philippines or some of these other countries where they're doing technical work, especially if it's a program or anything like that. You know, one of the big tricks that I find is I try to hire their wives to do like customer support or something. I've
Yep.
done this with a few people, and that
Yep.
buys you incredible loyalty, because now their family works for you. It's not just him and his job. So now if someone were to come along and even offer him maybe a little bit more money,
Yep.
his wife is part of the package, right?
Yes.
So it's like, the amount of money now that someone have to really pay them to even try to lure them away. A lot of people aren't just motivated by only by the money. You know, they like the
Money,
lifestyle and
absolutely.
how well the boss treats them and the fun projects they work on. They like to be challenged and they like to be able to contribute as well. Those are things that are talked about. But when you add
Yep.
in another person to the pie, um, it really
Yep.
buys you loyalty and gets you better return because you know what happens when they're sitting around at meals and stuff together at home when they're talking about their work together. They're both reinforcing to themselves that, hey, we both need to keep doing a really good job for this man or woman that has hired us.
Well,
Um,
let me ask you something else, John, on this. Graphic design. I love your graphic design. I've got a picture of the outsource force, and this is something you've always been really big on from day one. In fact, very contra to the I suppose there was a real movement, if you like, in information marketing products to make products look ugly. And you've always been, right at the forefront of doing really, really detailed products, excellent products, beautiful training, but they look great as well. So what do you do for your graphic design? Is that outsourced overseas as well, or what do you do there? Anything different?
Full-time designers that
Yep.
about $500 a month, $600 a month. Typically, I like to, and this is another trick too, you like to retain people full-time that have a combination of skills.
Yes.
So a really good one is a content writer slash designer or a
Yes.
or a programmer slash designer. Because then you get like double bang for the buck, right? It's
Yep.
like, but you have to understand, even if you hire a designer full time, that you don't have work for every single day.
Yep.
Who cares? They're so cheap, and by you giving them a steady paycheck, they're not going to be chasing tons of other clients and make you wait when you do need something done. They're on it as soon as you need it. However,
Yep.
I will say this though, when it comes to the Filipino culture, which I have learned a lot about now, especially have been being I went over the last year and set up an office and
Yep.
everything, and have worked with those people now and have hired a bunch of people there. And this is similar in other cultures, but it's really important in their culture. Is if you don't give them a lot of stuff to do for you, a lot of times they'll want to quit because they feel guilty about taking the money and not doing anything for it. They want to work
Yes.
hard. I mean, gosh, go figure. That's really. I hate to say this and sound like a craphead in my own country, but that's kind of against the American culture. Isn't really like that. A lot of Americans are very lazy. And they have a sense of entitlement, which I think most people will agree with. Not everyone. There's some hard workers in this country for sure that built the country, but it's a great work ethic they have. They feel guilty that you're paying them, even $3 or $4 every month if you're only giving them something to do once a week, and if it's not keeping them busy.
Yep.
So you want to. But the other thing you can do. This is great advice for people listening to this. I'm huge, as you know. It,
Yeah, literally in the hands in
uh,
particular.
har har. Anyways, I'm huge with mastermind stuff. Obviously, you and I do some mastermind together,
Yes.
and it's Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, such a big thing. Well, everyone should be masterminding. If you're in the internet business for real and you're making money at this, you need to be communicating. You need to be part of a community, whether it's online forum or Skype calls or anything else, with other people trying to do. They don't have to be in your niche, but other people in this business. I think you've done that really well with the 30-day challenge community that you've built. It's such a good job, just teaching people and then bring like-minded people together that want to do this stuff. But one of the great
Yep.
things I want to point out is you can share workers with other people. So let's think about it. Let's say you want to have a bunch of design done or a bunch of articles written or something else.
Yes.
Hire someone full time, right? You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I can.
Hire someone
Great
full time
idea.
for $300 a month and share them with two other people, and you each chip in $100 a month. So you're getting stuff written every single month for only $100 a month. One, it's good if you have a low budget, but two, it's good if you don't have full time work to give them. It still retains them full time. But so a great one for like that would be a decent designer. You know, lock
Yes.
them up for $500 a month and you pay your third or your half if you're splitting them with someone else. And even though you don't have design stuff to give them every week, it's more like once a month, you got someone else there picking up the slack, giving them stuff to do as well. It's really easy to do.
Yep. That's a brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant idea.
But full-time employment, it's not even employment because they're not employees, so to speak. They're independent contractors, even if you retain them full-time. But let's just call it employment just for the sake of it. Full-time employment with full-time employment with outsourced workers is where it's at. That is what makes the bulk of the money. Project basis stuff, nah, because
that is a huge deal. That is a huge that is a huge mindset change.
I mean, I have people sign contracts where I'll pay them a little bit more than they're asking per month, but when they sign the contract, they promise that they exclusively work for me. I basically say, how much would it take for you to no longer do jobs for other people? No longer take on side projects and things. So if they're asking $400 a month, let's say, or $500 a month even, I'll be like, look, I'll give you $650, but you only work for me now. You can't take on other jobs. You can't go post things on Elance. You can't take on other work. I need someone that will only work for me. I'm willing to pay you a little bit more. You'll have a better quality of life. You don't have to work for other people anymore. You just have to focus on doing a good job with my stuff. You'll use all your other free time to enjoy your family and do whatever you want for fun. And I'm paying you more than you're asking for. But when you sign the agreement of confidentiality, and there's a kind of a base agreement and things.
I was saying, and that would wrap up intellectual property and everything that you create.
By the way, so the course, Outsource Force, the course that's going to be launched in May 11th, that comes out. This is the pre-launch for. Part of the whole course and the whole multi-week coaching program, all the stuff that goes with it, is giving them sample agreements and everything they can use, and also cut and paste things to interview. I mean, everything done for them, basically. Yep. But part of that's like contracts for people to sign, and the way to manage people and manage the relationships with people and intellectual property and all that sort of stuff. Basically when they basically say anything they create for the company owns it. That's from designs to programming, all that stuff. So exclusivity is a big deal. Most people go and hire an outsourcer and don't realize that outsourcer is
don't even think to even check that they're hiring somebody exclusively.
Oh, I got this person I hired for $300 a month. They're doing pretty good. They're getting a few articles. What do you think they're also doing? They're letting someone else hire them for $300 a month. They're working for you really part-time. So that's a big secret too. I give them a little bit more money and basically get them to sign exclusively. And if they say, no, I can't agree to that, then don't hire them.
Yep. Move on.
It's a danger sign. It's a danger sign they're not going to put in the work for you.
And can I just point out here on the screen now, I've got a slide up now. That's in all caps because it's Apple's ARTI all caps template, but you actually need to just use lowercase letters for if you go to www.tubbynerd.com, it doesn't actually. I think it throws a 4. It depends on the browser. Some browsers /outsource force, and John has put out a fantastic video. I watched the whole thing. I was mesmerized by his huge hands.
Shut up.
And his.
But I got ripped on for wearing the sunglasses. I got made fun of.
No, but it's and
the haircut too. Somebody made fun of the haircut.
Well, it's sort of like are you going mohawk? Are you going faux trendy? Who knows? But I'm surprised nobody's mentioned the Scottish what are they? Is that a sleep suit? Are they pajama pants that you're wearing there?
The shorts.
They're shorts. They're shorts. Yeah, you can't quite see the knee.
I am Scotch Irish, so.
Well, you're just paying homage to your history.
That's right. It's not a kilt though.
Yeah, that would be.
Wear that in the next video.
Yeah, that'll be good. No, that'll really help sales, I'm sure. It'll be just fantastic. But look, I thank you so much, John, for spending the time with us today, because I think you really hit on some core issues. You gave some real specifics in terms of where to find people, and to go away from what people have been teaching for ages, which is the project or task based, and really look at a team thing. And the proof is in the pudding. You've done a huge amount of work. I forget how long you were away overseas. It was for quite a few weeks, wasn't it, when you were setting up the team and doing all of that sort of stuff? Yeah, you're living this stuff. Yeah, you're putting this stuff together.
I mean, I was only there for a few days. I was on vacation. I'm always on vacation somewhere.
Well, yeah,
my life is a vacation. I'm very blessed.
Yeah, I was going to say it's often hard to tell the difference with you. That is for sure.
I went to Bali and went surfing in Indonesia.
Yep.
And then on the way back, stopped through the Philippines on the way back.
Yes, and of course it's the world capital of internet marketing there in the background of that shot there at La Jolla. I'm looking forward to
big brain trust that's building there with marketers.
Well, I'm in the next suburb over. There's just about 8,000 kilometers or so of ocean between myself and yourself.
I gotta say, I mean, I've only lived there a year, but it is a beautiful place. The weather is way better than Florida where I live. There's no humidity.
Yeah.
It's just nicer. But anyways.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. And look forward to bringing the whole Coming Home 3 over there to San Diego next month as well. So I'll be looking forward to catching up with you. It'll be brilliant. But please, everybody, please check out that link there, www.tubbynerd.com, Outsource Force. The video, I love the look out for the Blue Man analogy. I thought that was sensational in that video. Make sure you check that out. And as you can tell, there's some more stuff coming down the track over the course of the next couple of weeks. You really want to check that out. So thank you again, Johnny Ace. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for attending, and we will all speak soon.
Great. Bye-bye.